print gives you the ability, or gives you the chance to really tell a story and to tell a long, drawn-out story and really give your reader all the information they need.
The majority of people don't think a newspaper is a vital source they can rely on for information, but this print medium has helped shape communities, big and small, for at least 300 years.
As a journalist in general, I think our job is to gather information, do research on something that we think that the community should know about, and then gather all that info in an organized manner and put it into a relatable and an understandable format so that the basic reader can look at it and say, okay, I know what I'm reading, I know what happened, and I'm more informed.
The point of print journalism, I would say, is to be the behind-the-scene eyes for other people that don't get to see, the aspects of what goes into maybe their everyday visuals, and we're part of the people that show them and tell them what's up with the Rio Grande Valley or on-campus news.
As a journalist, my job is to give people information that they may not know, provide facts, tell a story, and enlighten people.
For some, newspapers offer a way for people to keep up to date on local community events, but for others, it's a way for individuals to change the community they live in. Anyone can write, but it takes a journalist who is passionate about their job to produce a story that can change a person's life.
I always feel like the majority of people don't read my stuff, but I've had people actually tell me, oh yeah, I read your story about la la la, and it feels amazing. So it doesn't matter if like one person or like 10 people read my stories. It's just that someone reads it. Either way though, I just like to write. I don't care if anyone, the way I think about it is when I'm writing a story, I don't think about someone else reading. I just think about that I like to write and I want to write about this, and that's it.
Honestly, I like the job. My job is to go to an event and interview some awesome people, some awesome athletes. Half my job is going to a game and watching it. So, it's a lot of fun.
I strive to educate, I think. I want every reader of mine, or every reader of any of ours, really, from the newspaper, to finish a story and know something that they didn't know before. So I want them to come away or to walk away from that story saying, hey, I learned something really interesting, or I learned something that I didn't know before, and this is something that I can take and I can tell other people. I think that's probably the most exciting thing, when someone reads something that you wrote and they feel like, hey, I know this, I'm going to go to someone else and I'm going to educate someone else and say, hey, I know that this and this happened, and let me tell you about it because I read it here, on the newspaper.
As much as I complain, because I do, I just can't find the heart to oh, deuces, I can't do that. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy meeting the people. I've even asked my friend who was a photographer. She was just a photographer. She quit, and I'm like, hey, do you miss it? And she's like, yeah, I do, because now I have no idea what's going on.
A news organization is a reflection of where a person lives and a record of its history. So it's a newspaper's job to be fast and trustworthy medium between its readers and the individuals who write the stories.
I think it's actually almost like a personal mission for me, because you read so many things about the Valley. The Valley has the worst economy, the Valley has the lowest income, the Valley has the poorest people. But in reality, the people that are writing that stuff aren't from here. Those people don't live here. Those people don't know anything about the Valley, and I do. I was not born but raised here in the Valley and have lived a majority of my life here. So I feel like this is my Valley and I know about it. So when I see something that I can write about that almost debunks all of this negativity that comes at the Valley, I take that chance.
Without a paper or any sort of news, you don't know what's going on. If we didn't know the news going on with the war, then it wouldn't affect our lives in a type of oh, the world is horrible. We wouldn't have that aspect. So, or maybe if it was a good news, it would affect us in a brighter way. So we wouldn't have those aspects on life if it wasn't for news or the news going. We wouldn't know certain things that go on the other side of the world, and it affects us, and it can affect us in a positive or negative way. So, but without the news, we wouldn't know. So we would just know our surroundings, and then that was it. We wouldn't have any eyes on the outside world.
As of January 2009, the Pan American newspaper has published 3,004 stories. From bake sales at the university to celebrities like Chuck Norris and Eva Longoria visiting, the student-run newspaper does what it can to appeal to all audiences.
Well, I think it's important, especially if you're on a college campus, to read your college paper, because the paper that we write, or in the format in which we write, caters to students specifically. So sure, you can go out and read about, Ferguson, you can read about immigration, you can read about, anything else that's hard-hitting news right now in the nation, but it's not tailored to college students. It doesn't take that perspective of a college student. It doesn't apply it to you. It doesn't say, hey, how is this affecting you as a college student? So the college newspaper can take that angle for you and make it a little bit more relatable to you, because a college student isn't going to, yes, immigration is important. We live in an area where immigration reform is a big, hitting issue. But a student is going to be, I feel, a lot more informed, or feel like the story relates to them a lot more if they're reading it from a UTPA angle, or they're reading it from a university perspective.
I try to write from the perspective of me as a student not knowing anything, try to give them everything that I know, or that something I would want to know and something I would want to read, but also for the sources, I want to give them the best story possible. I don't want to surprise them with any trashy story. So no, I definitely, mostly try to write for the source, because I want them to feel like, oh, this is a story that they wrote about me last year or 5 years ago. So I want them to remember that as a good thing and not a bad thing.
Whether it's a college newspaper or the New York Times, it's a newspaper's mission to provide readers with credible information.
I think it'll be a really long time before print fully dies. I think that there's a lot of people, young and old, that are holding on to it, and I don't think it's going to go away, at least not anytime soon.
Because you are seeing more people, how it's getting easier to access stuff online through a bunch of other stuff they have. So that's probably why the main reason why I'm getting into social media, because since that's something that will probably never go away, so I'm going to be safe if I'm into that field.
I think that world is sneaking up on us pretty quick as it is, so I think we'll find out pretty soon.
No, because there are some people that still stick to, we can't always be surrounded by technology all the time, so I think having that paper in hand is a good thing, but I think maybe we would lose, people wouldn't know as much information as we would want them to know, per se, the news. There's always the internet and the news, but it's, if I don't really go back and check the news like an old story, then majority people won't. So if there's a newspaper there, it's oh, let me grab it and read it on the go. But yeah, I think information would be put out, people would know the information way too late, and that's the whole point of print, is to get it out as soon as possible, so people wouldn't know their stuff right away. It would be old news by the time they hear it.
Newspapers are just making the transition from paper to online, and that's it. So it's not really dying, and I'm not worried at all. So
I don't think it is a dying field. I just think it's kind of like the radio, a little bit like of a lost art.
I don't think that would stop. I don't think that anyone would be shortchanged in any way. I do think there would be a really big demographic, young and old, of people that would be disappointed, because there is still, no matter your age, whether you're in your 60s or 70s or your 20s, there's always going to be those people that need something tangible. They need a book. Even though ebooks have come out with Kindles, or you can read stuff online or on your cell phone, there are still people who want a book. They want a bound book with paper, and they want to flip the pages, and they want to feel the ink, and there's something about it that's almost kind of archaic because it's so old, and people don't really do that anymore. And I think there really is still a demographic of people out there who have that desire to feel it and to read something.
I've always loved magazines. I want to do something with the arts, but of course at the time my grandma and my mom were always like, but that doesn't make money, so I dealt with that, but that's not a financially stable career, and I'm like, but that's what I want to do.
I'm very afraid, and my parents have told me several times that I'm going to move back in with them eventually, but that's why you need to get internships. You need to get your ass moving on stuff so you can have some kind of, so you can start building up, going up the tier until you actually have a good, secure job. And even if you're not making a lot of money, just don't live an expensive lifestyle. You're good.
Journalists know what they're getting themselves into when they embark in the print field, but their passion outweighs everything else.
It's just been a lot of fun. You know, I feel like because of the newspaper, when I walk around campus, I cannot walk around campus without seeing someone I know and saying, hey, what's going on? Hey, how are you? Good to see you. And I feel like a lot of these people I wouldn't know if I didn't work for the newspaper. You know, it's good networking and you meet a lot of people and you're working with like-minded people. So we all have a common interest. We all have a common goal. We all have the same interests. So we naturally all just kind of get along, you know? And it's just been a lot of fun for me. I don't think, even times where I was really stressed or I felt bad or I felt like I wasn't doing a good job or I felt like my work was maybe insufficient for whatever reason, even at the lowest points, it's still always fun to do, because you're doing what you love to do. You know, you're writing and you're talking to people and you're communicating and it's just what you love doing. And you're doing it every day. So there's nothing more fun than that.
Like, the people I meet is amazing. Like the surfer girl, I've talked with President Nelson, former President Nelson. So like, if you'd asked me coming into college, like, whoa, would you ever talk to the president? Like, I would have been like, oh no, like, only who talks, like, what? No one gets that chance. And like, I can say like, oh, I've talked to the president. I've met, like, I've talked with bands from Australia for NSN. I've met people that do long distance relationships, an all women mariachi group. Like, I stay because I enjoy meeting the people that I meet, because I like hearing their stories and what they have to say, because what they have to say is different from what I think and from what I experience in life. So the people definitely that I get to meet.
Describe your experience with the paper in one word.
Fun. Fun. I've had a lot of fun.
Interesting.
Awesome.